Welcome to the August 19th Eclipse OpenJ9 community call. Just a reminder to add your name and affiliation so we know who's been joining the calls. To the box note, the link for that is in the planning channel on Slack. So I'll just pause for a minute in case just to give everybody an opportunity to add any additional things to the agenda or to bring up any user-focused concerns right off the bat. Okay. Kristen, I see you're online. Are you ready with the lightning talk for this week?
Yeah, sure. Anytime.
All right, great. Then I will stop sharing and I'll let you take over.
Cool. Just let me know if that is not visible for anyone.
We can see it.
Cool. Thank you. Should be ready to go then. So my name is Kristen Newbury. I'm a master's student from the University of Alberta. My supervisor is Kareem Ali, and I'm currently working on a CAS project in collaboration with IBM. My RCL for that project is Andrew Craig. I would like to present to you today about a tool that we developed during that CAS project that is a software patch adapter for Java agents. First, I'll give a bit of background information on the use case that we developed the tool for. But if anyone else has any other use cases that they think would be valuable for this tool, I'd be really interested to know. And if we could determine whether or not this tool would be contribute to OpenJ9, I would very much like to know about that. So in the CAS project, we were working on Java application security, and just to skim over it, it was really just we have some set of Java classes that are insecure, and we were interested to make them secure. The most recent work in this field has mostly focused on software patching as a way to introduce security to applications. So the way that that works is we have developers at their development environment, they're sitting in front of a code base, they have some mechanism to detect whether or not some classes are insecure, and they make changes, and then the classes are secure. But the thing is, when there are variants of the application already distributed to servers, we wish to introduce security to those applications as well. So what would need to be done in that case is that the secured classes at least would have to be distributed to the running applications, and in software patching, we have to stop the application from running and then restart it with the secure classes as opposed to the insecure classes. In our work, we were actually more interested on looking at hotfixing as an alternative to software patching. And hotfixing is where you have your secure set of classes and you integrate them into the application as it is running. No application restart, no server restart required. So to perform hotfixing, we had to have a choice of a mechanism, and we went with Java agents written in Java. So that's any class that is a client of the instrumentation API. Some of you may be familiar with the C or C++ interface to the JVM TI, which is similar in that both can perform retransformation and redefinition events of classes. Basically, you can make changes to classes in a currently running application. And this is at least one of the reasons that OpenJ9 and other JVMs have to support HCR, right? So one thing in our work, though, was that the hotfix mechanism has a caveat, which is that not all patches, especially patches that were developed for software patching, can actually be used for hotfixing with a Java agent. I call these classes redefinition non-compliant, and specifically what that means is if you attempt to use these classes in a redefinition event, it will actually throw an unsupported operation exception in the agent. In this example, we can see that one example of a type of change that is non-compliant is if you attempt to add a method in a patch. For the purpose of our work, we were interested in still preserving the semantics of those patches and using them for hotfixing, so we built the tool that I'm presenting today, which is our patch adapter. This patch adapter is using as a dependency Soot, which is analysis bytecode instrumentation framework. And it consumes the patch classes that may or may not be compliant. And it also consumes classes of the original application that are relevant to the patch. It does basically a diff to see what types of changes were introduced in the patch. and then it categorizes those as redefinition, non-compliant, or compliant. If they are non-compliant changes, then what we did was basically adapt the patch such that it will now be redefinition compliant and can be used for hotfixing with a Java agent. Briefly, I'll go over a couple of types of changes that are non-compliant and how we dealt with them. In this work, we focused a little less on this one, but we have one type of change that is non-compliant for a patch is if you remove fields or methods. So for all of these, the first step is that we again detect that these types of changes did occur. And for this one, if we found that there was a patch that removed fields or methods, we actually just re-add the fields and methods back into the patch class so that it will become redefinition compliant. Again, can be used with the Java agent. This one's actually a little bit work in progress that we still probably should fix it so that we remove method bodies and maybe redirect that to the super implementations so that it not only is compliant or no longer causes exceptions, but also that it would preserve the semantics of the patch as well. The one that we focused the most on in this work is the type of change where you add fields or methods to a patch. Again, first step would be to detect that those fields or methods have been added. And for this one, it's a little more interesting. What we do is create something that I call host classes that correspond one-to-one with each class in a patch. And we move added fields or methods from the patch into the host classes because it is perfectly legal to define new classes at any point in a running application. Then we are able to preserve the semantics of the patch and also create a class set that can be used with the redefinition event. As necessary, we go around, we find the references for those fields and methods and adapt them so that they now point to the correct locations in the host classes. There's one more thing that we do in the patch adapter. This one's actually not a non-compliant change, but more of a consideration. As I said, we are interested in preserving the semantics of patches. And so one thing I didn't mention is that during redefinition events in Java agents, both initializers and static initializers are not rerun. So if there's some patch that changes values for static fields, and in this example, we can see that there was an integer field and the patch that made the class more secure changed the value from 10 to 25. And the new static initializer would have, obviously, the assignment statement for 25 in the static initializer. We wouldn't actually observe this value change if we use this patch class in a redefinition event. It would not cause any exceptions. However, again, mostly for security purposes, we're interested in preserving these semantics. So again, we detect that those value changes existed, and then we duplicate the assignment statements in static initializers into the host classes so that we do observe the effects of those patch changes. There's a few items that are non-compliant that we did not address. However, we've given them thought. I'll briefly again go over them. One other type of change that you can make in patches that are non-compliant is if you change field or method identifiers in any way, so the name or the accessors. We propose that you could probably handle these types of changes as if they were new. Maybe move the fields and methods to the host classes. You might have to replace the old fields and methods into the patch class as well and do something with the references to make sure everything points to the new semantics. But we proposed that it wouldn't be too difficult to handle. And then another not non-compliant but semantic consideration that you have to give is if you make any change in an initializer, as I said, the initializer is not rerun. So if you do wish to preserve those semantics, you would have to probably handle it in a similar way to the static field values, detect the changes, and then somehow duplicate the functionality in newly defined classes so that you could observe those changes. Right, so in summary today, I presented a patch adapter that we developed during this CAS project. I've talked about the types of changes that you can introduce into patches that our patch adapter does support. I've also talked about some types of changes that we do not support, but we have given consideration to. Thank you for listening to my talk. Kristen, if you have any questions now or later, feel free to email me. We can discuss whether or not this tool might be valuable to the OpenJ9 community.
Thanks, Kristen. Does anyone have any questions for Kristen?
I'm also in the OpenJ9 Slack, so at any point, if anyone wants to Slack message me as well about it, it would be free.
Okay, I have a couple of questions for you because I found the work quite interesting, and I think there's a lot of things that can be done with that kind of capability. I wondered if you thought about problems where you had already created instances of a particular class, and it had the bad values in its instance fields. How would you handle a case where after redefining a class, you now have the fixed instances running around, but you also still have these old bad instances?
We did give that one consideration, although we weren't able to address it in this work. I think that those types of cases would require a more integrated solution of coordination between our tool and the JVM. As it is, once the change set is passed over to our tool, we mostly do all the work there asynchronously and can pass that back to the JVM. But I think for those types of cases, we'd probably have to build a system that coordinates a little more between the two.
Okay.
Yeah, if I could add something there, Dan, I think the kind of thing that you're driving at there is similar to some of the things like ksplice and kpatch for like the Linux kernel. And for them, when for those kinds of tools where they do have those kinds of memory layout changes or instance changes that need to be updated, they have a mechanism where people who are submitting the patch can add like a transformer function to allow the objects to be processed. There'd need to be an extension to OpenJ9 to support that more sophisticated use case, but I think it's sort of building off of things that people have already done. So it'd be feasible. Require a bit of work though.
Okay. And I guess the other question I had was, have you thought about how to deploy this into a system so it doesn't become so that an attacker can't find a way to use this to modify the existing classes? Have you thought about how this would be deployed?
That's a very good question. Obviously, something we would need to address before making this accessible. I have to admit, I haven't given it super lengthy thought so far. It might have to come from the access to the agent in maybe like who initializes the operations of the patch adapter and whether or not the agent accepts classes from any point. So the part of this work that I actually didn't present and that anyone could supply is the agent component. So it would have to be set up to receive classes from the patch adapter, and maybe at that point we could introduce some sort of mechanism to confirm that they are from locations that we're trusting.
Okay. That's really cool work. Thank you for sharing that.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay, then I will pull up if there's no other questions, I will pull up the agenda and we'll continue. But as Kristen said, she's on Slack. Please do reach out to her and continue the conversation around this incredibly cool technology that she's been working on. I will pull up the list of new user issues and we can just take a look at the ones that have come in since the last community call. Looks like there's an issue instantiating a large heap with a compressed refs build, so that's probably just a discussion that needs to occur. A question around disabling huge pages, and a crash on 390 that may have come in during or after the last call. Do we have anyone from the 390 code gen or compiler team on the call today?
I don't see anyone. I don't see anyone from 390. I mean, I work on the JIT, so I can chase up if you'd like.
Yes, please.
Okay.
All right. Just a reminder again around help wanted issues, and make sure that that we are creating those and making this a welcome community for new people to join in and to get started developing with OpenJ9. In the interest of time today, I'm going to skip pulling up the dashboard. And we'll move to talking a bit about the 0.22 release coming up in September. So we've had the code split and we've started the milestone 1 builds. Thank you to Adam for doing the triage of those builds. There's some issues that have been highlighted that we'll need to take a look at and determine what can be done in time for this release. There's also a lot of issues still open in the milestone plan. We still have 31 items here. So just a reminder again that we need to focus on bringing down this list of things. Anything that will not complete or is likely to be a high risk change should be moved out of this release and into the 0.23 release. Though that doesn't give us a lot more time, as that release will ship in October. So just a reminder to please everyone be taking a look through the list of items that we need to close out for 0.22 for our Java 15 release, and make sure that we're getting those reviews done, getting the debugging happening, and getting those patches merged. And I'll remind everyone that we have done the code split, so any changes will need to be double delivered both into the main branch and into the 0.22 branch as well. And also I'll ask all component teams to be taking a look through here for issues tagged against their team to make sure that they're getting the right attention or moving into the right places. Because with today being the 19th, I'm just pulling up a calendar. Looking at our milestone 2 build would be the 31st. That basically gives us just over a week to get any other changes in there for that second milestone build and to close out any last minute issues before the September 15 GA. So please do be giving this the attention that it needs. Are there any questions, concerns, or comments around this upcoming release or items in the milestone plan? All right. I will be taking a pass over that plan in the next day or two as well to move items out. So, all right. In terms of our regular updates, do we have an adopt update?
I'll just reference that the M1 builds have been built. That's the pipeline they were built from. Thanks to Adam Farley for creating the triage doc that I've linked to there. So you may see a few issues coming in related to that triage effort. We have an Aquavit meeting directly after this call. If you want to join or you care about testing of adopt binaries and testing of OpenJ9. That's where we cover a lot of the new work. We also are going to be creating and doing initial testing of an adopt bundle. So people who are interested can go to see that issue. And there's kind of some random other stuff. I haven't fully added all the items here, but we are adding an Alpine Muso build at the project, and there is a PR for adding some additional Docker images, OpenSUSE Docker images as well. So if people have questions, they can just refer to the Docker channel for that. I'll update the notes here. That's probably all I have today.
All right, thank you, Shelley. I see that there's no update required for the machines. So unless there's any questions or concerns people want to bring up there. Okay. Devin, do you have an update on the CMake migration?
Yeah, so I've been spending my time adding CMake support to some of the private ZOS support code, which isn't part of OpenJ9, because while it does compile there, without it, it doesn't actually work. So that's basically what I've been doing, and then also looking at a change to, instead of using the C++ templated way of getting the max size of integers using the macros, because otherwise it creates a secret global constructor call, which then messes up with our linking, which I had tested before and was working fine, but now that all the other support pieces have been merged is somehow causing a seg fault somewhere. So hunting down kind of where that's coming from.
Is that seg fault on the Z platform or on other platforms?
It's only showing up on Z Linux at the moment.
Okay. And we're still on track for that October switchover for the JDK 11 builds?
Yeah.
Thanks, Devin. We also have the next item in the any other business has been the K8 Helm and operator discussion. Raghu, I see that there's been a pull request opened around this in the last couple of days. Do you have any update you want to share today? You're on mute now. I don't know if you're...
Dan, can you please repeat that?
I was just acknowledging that there's been a pull request open for the K8 Helm and operator discussion, and I wondered if there was any update you wanted to share with the group today.
Yeah. So Chris has opened the PR. I requested that he add some more information, as in what to focus on the review. I think the documentation needs to be focused on. I need to get the documentation description, whatnot, to a very good shape. And then, of course, the actual usage and the documentation of that usage, I guess. And also test. There has been some manual test done. I requested Chris to add in some more information on the tests that have been done, and plans for the further automation, whatnot, and open issues for following that through. So my request to all of you is please go take a look at the PR, and especially focusing on the documentation, as that will give you an overview of how it is getting used, and then you get to look at the various parts of it to see what we need update and changes.
Okay. Thanks, Raghu. I will note that my initial look at it, it looked large enough that we may need to open an Eclipse CQ or contributor contribution questionnaire for it to just to handle the size of that contribution.
Okay, I am not familiar with that, so probably need to find out.
Yeah, one of the committers will have to help walk through that process.
Okay.
In terms of the microjit, I don't see Scott on the call. Andrew, did you have an update here?
Other than it's continuing along, no. I think that there were some good discussions, and I think there's a few areas that need to be worked on, but I don't have anything concrete that needs to be reflected to the community at this time.
All right. Then
the next meeting will be a week tomorrow. So we had one on the 13th, so the next one will be the 27th.
All right.
So thanks.
All right then. Thank you, everyone, and we'll call the meeting for today, and we'll meet again on not the 19th anymore, but the 26th. So thank you, and continue discussions through Slack and other channels as well.
Thanks. Bye.
Bye.